Coming up on Hoosier Sports Night, women's basketball brings home the barn burner from West Lafayette. We'll give you more on how the Hoosiers took down Purdue on the road without one of their most prized players.
And struggles continue for men's basketball. We'll take you to the Kohl Center for what went wrong in last weekend's game. This is Hoosier Sports Night.
Hello and welcome to Hoosier Sports Night. I'm Kelsey Dennehy.
And I'm Joe Cronin. Kelsey, both basketball teams played Purdue. Did you watch any of the games?
Of course I did. I actually went up to West Lafayette to Maggie to watch the women's basketball team play. Speaking of teams that beat Purdue, 3 was certainly the magic number for women's basketball as they took down Purdue on Sunday afternoon in a record-breaking win. I have more on the Hoosiers barn burner.
Indiana women's basketball closed out rivalry week with a 74-68 win over the Purdue Boilermakers this afternoon in West Lafayette.
We just really come together, especially on the road. It's going to be a little tougher, but I think the biggest thing is our team is really close. We know we're all we got, so it's definitely a good feeling when we come out with a win, especially on the road.
Just really proud of our group and you know, we got up, we got down, we got up, we got down, we got up, and then found a way to win.
The Hoosiers struggled out the gate to get momentum without one of their leading ladies, Sydney Parrish, giving up 29 points in the first quarter and 6 turnovers in the first half.
All hands are on deck, you know, when one of your starters goes down. Your other starters have to do a little bit more, and then you hope to get something from your bench, whether that's might not be offensive, but can they hold the lead and help us defensively while we're trying to get some of those guys rest.
Indiana found their groove in the fourth quarter courtesy of Sarah Scalia and Chloe Moore McNeil, who both chipped away at 15 total three-pointers for the team, a Hoosier record on the road.
We all had the mindset of, with Sid being out, we all need to do a little bit more. We kind of went through the same thing last year with Graceberger, so adversity is nothing new to us.
We don't panic, and I don't panic with these guys. You know, we know there's a task that we have to do. You challenge them, and then they're pretty good about going out and being able to execute whatever task or challenge that you give them.
A record 20 points and explosive coverage on the other side of the ball from Moore McNeil carried Indiana down the stretch and helped fill in the gaps of a missing Parrish.
Has a lot on her plate with being able having to do both, run our team and also guard the best player. And so I think that takes an amazing, not just talented, but tough, you know. And I've always said this about Chloe, she's as tough as they come.
The Hoosiers will return to Bloomington with the barn burner to face off against the Northwestern Wildcats on Sunday at 2 p.m.
Indiana traveled up to Wisconsin to try to get back in the win column after a lopsided loss to Purdue. Our Josh Bodie was in Madison, where Indiana once again struggled against the top tier of the Big Ten. Josh?
Yeah, there were a lot of things that went wrong tonight in Indiana's 91-79 loss here at the Kohl Center against Wisconsin. Composure unraveled in the second half during a run that put the game away for the Badgers. C.J. Gunn got ejected for an elbow to the face of Max Klesman. The offense started slow, putting up just 26 points in the first half, but the defense struggled all night, giving up 91 points. Indiana had no answers to Wisconsin's offense, specifically Klesman, who ended with 26 points.
I mean, you ain't going to beat nobody in the Big Ten, and that's all made 91 points. It's a lot of points. Yeah, we missed the big fella tonight to plug the hole, but, I mean, we kept getting beat off the bounce a lot tonight.
Indiana's losing streak continues here at the Kohl Center. They have not won at Wisconsin since 1998. Indiana now has over a week off as they prepare to face off against Illinois, where they look to get over 500 again in Big Ten play. Back to you guys in the studio.
Indiana wrestling welcomed Maryland to Wilkinson Hall on Sunday, looking to capture their first Big Ten victory. The Hoosiers started slow, losing 3 of the first 4 bouts, but Indiana's Brayton Lee turned the tides in the 157-pound class, and the Hoosiers closed the match strong, beating Maryland 21-15. After the match, IU head coach Angel Escobedo praised the resiliency of his squad.
Earlier in the week, I told them it's not about how many times you get knocked down, it's about how many times you get back up. And so I was looking to see, can they show grit? Can they show, how they're going to respond in adversity, getting beat up the way we did in those 2 first dual meets, and they did.
Indiana will host Purdue this weekend, looking to get up to 500 in Big Ten dual meets. The Hoosiers will try to make it 2 in a row against the Boilermakers after losing the previous 12.
Coming up after the break, we crown our Hoosier Highlight Athlete of the Week.
And women's tennis continues their hot streak. We'll give you more on how they fared at home. This is Hoosier Sports Night. Welcome back to Hoosier Sports Night.
Now joining us in studio for this week's Hoosier Highlight is our very own Joe Brennan. Joe?
Thanks, Joe. This week's Hoosier Highlight Athlete is Chloe Moore-McNeil. This past Sunday, Indiana took down Purdue 74-68 in Mackey Arena. But with starter Sydney Parrish out on injury, the Hoosiers had to make some adjustments in her absence. And Moore-McNeil led the charge. Chloe did it all for Indiana with a season-high 20 points and 4 assists on the offensive end, along with 2 steals and 2 blocks on the defensive side. And talk about a high motor. Moore-McNeil played a full 40 minutes for Indiana. Her performance against the Boilermakers from West Lafayette was enough to bring home the Barn Burner Trophy and make her our Hoosier Highlight Athlete of the Week. Back to you guys.
Indiana Swim and Dive retained their undefeated dual meet record last Friday in Ann Arbor. Both the men and the women's divers won the 1 and 3 meter events. Junior diver Carson Tyler set a personal record that is currently the top mark on the 3 meter for this season. Senior swimmer Jessen Yep won both breaststroke events, continuing his success in the 200, where he currently holds the nation's top time. As for the women's meet, it came down to the very last event, with a win in the 400 free relay allowing IU to come out on top by only 4 points. The Hoosiers will look to maintain their winning streak this Saturday against Purdue.
The IU men's tennis team traveled to Memphis to compete against the Tigers on Sunday. Right out of the gate, Indiana had their backs against the wall as they lost the first doubles point, falling short at 2 and 3 doubles. On the singles end, senior Michael Andre was the lone victor as he outlasted his ranked opponent Pal Fonlo at number 3 singles. Andre stays undefeated through the team's first 3 matches. The 2-1 Hoosiers will head east to face Dartmouth on Friday at 6 p.m.
The Indiana women's tennis team has been on a hot streak, beating both Western Michigan and Chicago State this past weekend 4-0. The Hoosiers freshman lineup has showcased their talent splendidly so far this season. Lee Shi Lin, who won both of her singles matches of the weekend, as well as freshman Elizabeth Dunock, who won both of her singles and doubles matches against Chicago State. Lara Schneider and Lene Marie Havda have held down the fort in the number 1 doubles position, starting the season 4-0. Assistant coach Austin Roebuck spoke highly of the impact from the freshman class.
Well, it's been great so far. We have a young team, and so to get some of these matches out of the way and to get, especially the first few matches of the year, to get kind of the jitters out, especially for the freshmen, it's always good to get wins. So we're happy to be 4-0.
Indiana will face off against Yale next Sunday at home. The Hoosiers have struggled recently against Yale, going 1-3 in their last 4.
Now joining us with this week's Candy Stripe calendar report is Maggie Sullivan. Maggie?
Thanks, Joe. A fun IU sports-filled weekend lies ahead for Hoosier fans. Track and field will travel to Louisville to go up against the Cardinals on Friday and Saturday. Also on Friday, men's tennis travels to New Hampshire, facing Dartmouth University at 6 p.m. On Saturday, the men's and women's water polo team will head up north to Ann Arbor, Michigan, to take on Marist and Salem, respectively. Men's basketball looks to upset number 10 ranked Illinois on their home court in Champaign, Illinois at 3 p.m. To wrap up Saturday, you can see IU wrestling go up against Purdue at Wilkinson Hall at 7 p.m. To close out the weekend, women's tennis looks to get a win at home against Yale University. And finally, the number 14 ranked women's basketball team will tip off against Northwestern at Assembly Hall at 2 p.m. That's all for this weekend of Hoosier Sports. Back to you guys at the desk.
Thanks, Maggie. And that's our show for the week. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at IUSTV Sports to keep up with all the latest in IU athletics. For our production crew behind us, I'm Joe Cronin.
And I'm Kelsey Dennehy. We'll see you next week.